I just went to my very first comic book swap meet. Stay tuned to see how it worked out. Welcome back, comic book fans. This is Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and today I went to my very first comic book swap meet. This is the first time I've ever done one of these. Had a lot of fun. This was hosted by DMV Comic Collectors, the Facebook group out of Northern Virginia, and I want to thank those guys for hosting this. It was a lot of fun. There was probably a couple dozen people there. Everybody brought comics that we ended up going through, and eventually we started making trades, and it was a great time, and I ended up with some really good books, and I gave up some really good books too. But that's all part of this fun here, and it was good to be out and part of this community and to help DMV Comic Collectors grow, because we are both trying to help this Northern Virginia, Maryland area, DC included, this community. We're trying to help this community grow, so we're encouraging anybody that's anywhere in this area to join the group. Actually, anybody can join the group. It's on Facebook, and they are growing every day, and they have some plans for some other things. I know that I talk with Jason there, and we're talking about maybe doing a comic book run where we end up going to meeting up and then going to multiple stores in one day, and let's see who makes the best deals and what books people are looking for. It's all about building a community, and I really enjoy that. And it was a great time getting out there today. So I'm going to do a little bit of footage right here. So sit back, watch this footage. And I didn't take a lot of footage at the show. As I said, I didn't know how this was going to work. You just kind of came in, you put your boxes down, and people just started walking around. It was a small room, so it really wasn't, everybody kind of trusted each other. We went over to each other's boxes, and we just started going through the boxes, and you'd pull out some, and you literally would go find the owner of those boxes, those books, and you go back over and say, hey, is there anything you like in my box? And yeah, it kind of worked out. And like I said, I got some good books, but watch the footage and I'll be right back. So I hope you enjoyed some of the footage from this show, from this comic book swap meet. As I said, there wasn't a lot of people there, but this is the first time we've had this kind of event in this area hosted by DMV Comic Collectors. And it was interesting to see what was going to happen. And again, I wasn't sure how to approach things. I know I came in right when they opened, put the boxes down, and with another fellow right next to me, and we were talking, and we started looking at each other's books. But then other people came in, put their boxes down, and then they came over to my table and were looking through things. And eventually I worked my way out. I wasn't sure if I needed to stay at the table or could walk around. Wasn't really sure how many people were going to be there, but ended up getting some pretty good books in the end. So let me just get into the books. These are some really nice books, and then I'll tell you what books that I ended up trading to get these right here. And let me just start off with this one here. It wasn't on my list. Again, I got it off of my wish list for 2023. Of course, that's what I'm looking for in certain things, but I wasn't sure what I was going to find here, and I was a little scared that I was going to go in there and not find anything I really wanted, because I wasn't sure what people were bringing. And I hope that I brought some good books, and I think I did. People got a few things, and I ended up finding a few things here. So I'm going to go through this little stack, and I'll show you what I got. Now, this one right here was not on the list, but it was such a beautiful cover and a beautiful copy. This is Green Lantern number 65. And as I was going through this one box, and I found a couple of things from this one person, and ended up, I think it was about $75 worth of books, and he came over to my table and got about $75 worth of books as well. I think he actually picked up a few other things too. But I felt like this was a really nice book. You guys can tell me if this is a key or not, but I just kind of remember this book when I was growing up, seeing it in some of the old DC house ads someplace along the way. But it was in such a nice condition, I figured I'd go ahead and pick that up. But this right here is definitely a key. It's one of my favorite books. It is Daredevil 111. I had this as a kid, and I've bought multiple copies over the last couple years of this when I find it in really high grade. And so I was excited to get another good copy of this. I've never gotten this graded yet, so I definitely have about 2 or 3 of these in the shop. I don't think I've actually cleaned and pressed any of them yet. It's work to be done. You never run out of comic books. There's always more comic books to clean and press. And even when I have 3 presses, sometimes it's like I'll never get through all these books. But this is real nice. Let me put this up here. If you guys don't know, this is the very first appearance of the Silver Samurai. And if it was funny, I literally just came home from the show, from the meet, and I turned on the TV, and what was on? The Wolverine, the movie with Hugh Jackman. When it had the appearance of the Silver Samurai. Wasn't exactly this character, but it still was the Silver Samurai. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, that's a great book. You guys should keep an eye out on this. I've seen this book. It's one of those that's never on a top 10 list, but it is always a great key to pick up when it's in high grade. Let's see. I picked up from one dealer. He ended up taking a couple books, and I went over and I was going through his book. In fact, this was the only dealer that was there. We had one dealer there, and he had a lot of books there, but he was still working trades and everything. And he'd come over to my table and picked out a couple books. So I went back to the same table, and I started going through things, and he had some really nice, more expensive keys and everything, but there really wasn't anything that's when I got back on my wish list. I kind of stayed on course on that. But I was going through his less expensive books, and I was looking for smaller keys that I could still possibly clean and press, or just something I wanted. And I ended up finding he had a very nice copy of the first Secret Wars, #1. And we'll have to get this out and take a look at that back cover. I know that back cover's, I think it's pretty black, so hopefully it'll be a really nice copy. But regardless, what I traded it for, I felt like this was going to be a good trade. And then to even out the rest of the trade, I picked up this. This is X-Men number 234 with that Mark Sylvester cover for Wolverine when he's got the alien with the Brood in him, and just a great cover. It is a tough cover because of just pure black on this spine. I've had a couple copies. I had this when I was growing up. I had multiple copies. I was buying multiple copies of these X-Men back in the day, and every one of them had a little bit of a spine tick, so I never could find one, never could get any of mine graded, but this actually looked like a really nice copy. So went ahead and picked that up, and that was pretty much a swap. And that's how this worked, is people price their books, and everybody was encouraged to be really fair about the pricing. And the prices I put on my books, what I did was, I wouldn't say exactly fair market value. What I would say is it's fair market value, but then kind of what's the average, what's the price of the book, what is it going for currently? And I like to use Go Collect and Cover Price for that. And it was nice to be able to see what are some of the current prices for books at a certain grade. At least, and you're trying to grade this the best you can and not overgrade it. I was trying to be conservative. So the prices I had on there were definitely prices I felt the books were worth right now. Now, if I had been setting up at a show, I don't know if that would have been the same price I would have had on the books. I probably would have raised the price a little bit. I don't know. But this right here they're all priced to be just exactly fair, and I felt like everybody did the same thing. So it was real easy to take one of the books, and you can see there was a price tag on that, and go over and basically do a 1-for-1 swap or a 2-for-2 swap, or however it worked. So this worked out real well with those 2 books. And let's see what else. And then the dealer I was telling you about, the person next to me, he ended up doing, had some really nice books and everything, but there wasn't a lot that I was super interested in, but he had found a couple books that he liked, or at least one book that he really liked. It was a Spider-Woman #1, a Michael Turner variant, and he really liked that. And I started going through his books, and he ended up having I got another one. I got a second copy of Secret Wars #1 from him, and that was a 1-for-1. He was pretty amenable to that. And But then I ended up finding some bigger books. I had one fellow who'd come in with me, and he had some pretty nice books. It was a lot of modern stuff, and there wasn't a lot of modern stuff I was really looking for, but he did have some interesting things I've never had. But he had come to my table first, and I sat there and talked up some of these Spider-Man books, and he ended up, I think he picked up Venom #1 and Spider-Man 259, The Origin of Mary Jane. And it was a really nice copy. I had a really good copy of that. And I was going through his box, and I wasn't sure exactly what price I had on that. But he had a couple really nice copies of the New Agents of Atlas. I got 2 of them here. And he had priced them out, and it was completely a 2-for-2 swap. It was completely even, and I was happy to get a couple copies of this. I know that has been on a hot list, but has definitely come down. But I've never had this book, so I didn't mind picking it up for the PC and for possible future spec. Who knows? But that was nice to pick those up. And the other ones actually are really big keys. And for some of these, I ended up trading some of my slabs that I had brought with me. And again, those were priced as well. And so I ended up doing this. Can't remember which slab exactly I traded for this, but I ended up, actually I do know which one it was. I had a Captain America number 11, 111. 8.5. It's that Jim Steranko white cover with that classic pose with Captain America right there in the center and all this other action going on in the middle. I love that book. It was an 8.5. The book looks immaculate, except it's definitely aged. You can tell if the pure white cover is not pure white anymore. It's definitely had that tanning. And for what I had on a price on that, I ended up trading that for these 2 books. I picked up a copy of Omega Men #1, the first appearance of Lobo. Never owned that book. And this right here, it's DC Comics Presents, this is number 27, the first appearance of Mongrel. And I thought this was really cool because this is a book right now that's just popped up on some top 10 list, and it's starting to rise in value. I don't know exactly why. This character's always been really good, especially in that Superman annual when he gives Superman this birthday gift. It was a great Alan Moore story, but this is his first appearance. It's a kind of a horrible cover though, but regardless of that, a nice first appearance, and that's what I traded for that Captain America number 11. But then the last thing that I did, and this was with the same person, this was with Jason, who actually runs and started DMV Comic Collectors. This right here was a straight up 1 book for 1 book. I had an Avengers number 77, graded 9.2, and he just happens to be collecting these Avengers books. Not just that one, but I think he said the first 100, and he's trying to get these high grades, 9.2 and above. And I had that book. I did have some other Avengers, but they were 8.5 and 9.0s. But this book right there, he wanted that book, and I went back over to his table, and he had another book, and as it turned out, it was a complete 1-for-1. It worked out really well. The price he had on this book versus the price I had on that slab, and we ended up making a deal, and I ended up getting this. This is Ultimate Fallout number 4. This is the second print, and it is a sharp copy. So I'm looking forward to getting this into the press and getting this graded and see what we can get out of that. I had a couple copies of this when I originally had them, and I think I still have at least one of them graded, but I never could get. Actually, I take that back. I did get a 9.8 on one of those. I think I sold it, and then I think I had another 9.6. So both of my copies were really good, but didn't mind having another copy of this. Definitely, this is one of those things where I don't mind trading that Avengers book. It's one of my favorite runs of the Avengers at 77. It was part of that Tom Palmer, John Buscema run. But mostly because I want to get even higher grades on that particular run. It was issue 74 through 84, minus 1 issue with Sal Buscema, John's brother. And I'm trying to get 9.6s, maybe even 9.4s, but 9.6s. So I'm shooting pretty high on that. So I didn't mind giving up that 9.2 on issue number 77. But to get another copy of this, I thought that was a really nice trade, and shook hands and we walked away, and I think we're both really happy with that. But that's it for the books. Let me give you the list of the books that I ended up trading all in all. I had some of them I've already mentioned, Spider-Man 259, Avengers 187, that is the third part of that origin of the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver to a lesser degree. And part of that storyline is what was put into the Doctor Strange movie Multiverse. What? Multiverse? Yeah, Multiverse of Madness. And that third issue is not the most expensive. 186 is definitely the issue to get. I actually had those two, but they weren't quite as high grade as that 187. I did trade an Iron Man number 25, the original series. Beautiful Namor Iron Man cover, and it had a little bit of damage, and that was fine. He was fine with that. We talked about the condition of the book. It was immaculate, except for that popped staple on the cover, on the top staple. But I was kind of happy to part with that book. It was a disappointment. I'd picked it up off of Whatnot, and when I got it, I was kind of disappointed that was something that wasn't pointed out when I was buying it on that live stream. I mentioned the Spider-Woman number 1, the Michael Turner variant. I did the first issue of Thunderbolts. The Venom number 1 I mentioned, that's a Lethal Protector Venom number 1. And then the other ones were all slabs. I mentioned talked all about, of course, the trade here with the Avengers 77, the Captain America 111, 8.5. But the last one I ended up trading was the new Teen Titans number 2, the first appearance of Deathstroke. And I had a 7.5. It was my original copy that I had as a kid back in 1980. And it was one of those books, it was an early submission, one of my very first submissions to CGC. I had them clean and press it. It was not a book. I hadn't been doing that myself at that point. And they got a 7.5 on it, and I was kind of happy about it just to kind of preserve it. It was a little rough, and I wasn't necessarily disappointed in that, but it's a book that I know I wanted to get a better grade on eventually, and I did, and it's literally sitting right back here. I had replaced this earlier or late last year. I got a 9.6 on that. So that's why I didn't mind parting with my original copy. It was my only other copy. So all in all, I felt like I gave up some really nice books, but in return, I've got some really nice books right here. So a lot of fun. I encourage everybody, if you get a chance to do one of these comic book swap meets, let me know how you guys did. It would be real interesting to hear your experiences. In fact, what was fun was this morning when I got ready to go, Bronzeville Comics did a video that premiered right before I left on him going to a comic book swap meet. And it turned out, when I watched the video, it ended up looking more like a comic show. It was a community get-together, but it looked more like a comic book show, because there was a lot of dealer setups from his footage and everything. But guys, check out his channel, and you can definitely see some fun stuff going on up in the northeast corridor there. But it was a lot of fun. Let me know in the comment section what you think about these books. What do you think about the ones I gave up? And let me know about your experiences. I'd love to hear about those. But that's it for today. If you like today's show, please hit the like button, slap the subscribe, and definitely hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on episodes just like this every Monday and Friday at 10 a.m. So that's it, guys. I am out of here. I will see you for the next show. I'm sure it'll be about comic books, because it's always about comic books. And don't forget, every comic has a story.